thought we would be.
It's a, you don't have to,
I'll go get you something. Hold on one second.
don't worry about it.
Okay, now we're officially live.
Live?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna walk you through the statement you have in front of me, which is prepared by high probability advisors who are our advisors here. So you can see on that first page, roughly $320,000 in cash and cash equivalents, $15.5 million of fixed income, currently through February 28th. You will see that if you look at last year and you look at our last year's balance, we were a little over 17 million. We did need a little over $1.8 million. We had a maturity, we had some cash working capital needs that we had to bring in back into the company based on basically last year's deficit that we, we didn't repurchase the maturity. So that's where the difference is between December 31st, 2025 and February 28th, 2026. Okay. And then really the second page of really what I want you to focus on in terms of the balances, again, you can see the positions in our fixed income. We currently have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 positions in the laddering process at different times of the year. When they mature, that's 15.4 million. And the estimated annual income, as you can see, is about $665,000. Which overall, if you take those two numbers, is about a 4.2% return. So that is the summary of the investments. Again, any questions on any of those statements or anything done?
No, I like the laddering. I think it's working, and we can't expect that money to just grow by itself. You know, we had a down year, but other than that, it's working very well.
Yeah. I mean, last year was almost $800,000 in earnings we made on those investments. And again, I wouldn't say too long ago. I'm saying 5 years ago, that number was 0.
Yeah.
So that helps supplement our reduced fee income.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, think of it that way. And we have generated a significant amount of fees over the last 5 years. That in turn has made us generate $800,000 last year, right? So like that, in addition to our fee income of say $900,000. Our normal without our big home runs that we've had has been about a $2 million mark history. We keep talking about that number. I'll be hearing me say that over and over. That's generally historically where our fee income number would come in. So this does help, but as Truman indicated, we already have taken $1.8 million for the working capital that we need this year. If we continue to spend more money than we take in, that's going to continue to reduce that amount. And that's where I think, that next iteration of this conversation will probably need to go is like, okay, what is that outlook? What is that strategic plan of where we want to take the organization? What do we want to use? Maybe probably some of those excess funds for that's in our treasury, but also have a sustainable going concern, organization here that's gonna.
I think that's a good point. I mean, we ended up with so much workforce development money that it served us well. Interest rates started going up, and so you're right. Maybe we need to figure out, is the money that's there going to continue to be all for workforce development, or depending on how things go, Truman, you talked about it, we may not have the projects going forward. Do we keep a certain percentage of that as income, until the interest rates drop so low that it doesn't make a difference?
Yeah, I think we need to undergo a strategic planning exercise, and we've been talking about that.
Yeah.
It's I think probably needs to happen sooner rather than later. Just sitting here, listening to you, Greg, I don't know, and I'm just throwing this out here right now. I don't know if it makes sense, but is that a consulting service that we can maybe talk to Bonadillo about to help kind of sort of guide that discussion, or maybe it's a conversation that we have by ourselves first, But I think we really need to get into it because we're spending a lot of money.
Yeah, we have a big balance sheet. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Norma, go ahead.
No, I agree, I think it's a great point, but before we grab an outside source, we should define what the issue is.
Sure.
And then move forward, because I think there's a lot of things, you know, in many different directions that are worthy, but how do we measure that? And, I have ideas.
Yeah.
Related question for Rachel, understanding that Harris Beach has many other IDA clients. Is it commonplace for industrial development agencies to undertake strategic planning processes? I know COMIDA is unique in that we have significant resources at our disposal, but I'm just curious if that.
Yeah, I think so. I
grows.
think more and more IDAs are finding themselves with these cash balances. We're not the only IDA with these mega projects. We're one of many. And so a lot of them are seeing themselves for the first time, and undertaking those strategic ways and figuring out how to spend the money. But I think they're doing it now for the first time, frankly.
Okay, so we're not alone.
No, we're not alone. But I don't think anyone's really forged the path yet. But it's all dependent upon what your county initiatives are, right? Of how to spend the money.
But it's deeper than just having a company like High Probability coming in and laddering investment.
Well, it's that, but then it's what do you do with the money? Like, what
Yeah.
do you do with your cash balances? And what is the strategic vision for the county and how the IDA wants to spend its money? Is gonna vary, but like I said, I think many IDAs are finding themselves in this position. I was just talking about one of my partners, a Southern Tier IDA has a very similar cash balance, and trying to figure out what to do with it.
And it's an opportune time also because we're coming off of having done a market study on the housing, what's happening in the housing market in Monroe County, and then responding in the form of COMIDA's policies accordingly. And, you know, perhaps it's like zooming out even beyond our balance sheet and looking more at governance, we're looking at updating our UTEP, looking at COMIDA modernization 2.0. We announced COMIDA modernization in 2022 in tandem with the workforce fund. Perhaps we can talk about figuring out what do we want to look like as an organization in the longer term, have it be a living, breathing document like our housing study, and then it can kind of guide how we want to invest our resources in the future. We can work together on that.
Sure. Makes sense to me.
What do you think, Bill?
I mean, I guess it's typical, right? It's typical to go through an internal assessment of strategic direction that you want to take, and then whether we use an outside consultant at the end or not, but it makes sense. I mean,
Yeah.
proper course of action.
Yeah, I think ultimately though, how we allocate the funds, or at least the types of projects that we want to support, and I don't mean to sound all doom and gloom at this point, it's important that we do that, but at this point I kind of feel like it's a secondary consideration. Because operations are sustainable at this point, right? But like we're spending more cash than we're actually generating. And so it would be great if we were in a position to say, oh, you know what, I want to support workforce housing, or, you know, I want to put these dollars into capital projects, right, that are going to spur economic development. You know, I think that is a position that, you know, public and private firms can be in if they are profitable, but right now we're not profitable. And so to look for ways to spend the money right before we actually are making money, to me, is kind of like putting the cart before the horse. And so I think what we need to do is take a look at really take a look at where we currently are. Go through like a strategic budgeting exercise over the next, 5 years and talk about, what are going to be the sources of revenue, right? Really, where do we think our cash position is going to be the next 12 months, 24 months, 36 months? And then from that standpoint, to the extent that we feel like we're going to have enough cash on the balance sheet to have sustainable operations, then the secondary question is, well, how do we want to spend these dollars? Because I think you're right, Norm, it's not just spending dollars, but every time that a dollar goes out the door, there's opportunity costs that's associated with it. Our resources aren't infinite. And so if you pull money from one project, you take it from another, So we have to be able to justify, the dollars that we're spending. Whenever we get a project, in the door for COMIDA support, whether or not it's for, sales tax, mortgage tax abatement, or a pilot, we put it through the model, and the model spits out some kind of a economic return, right? It tells us what the public benefit is, right? It tells us what the return is, and so from that standpoint, it's justifiable. I think we need to have the same level of diligence, as it comes to how we spend, the dollars that are currently sitting on our balance sheet as well. But I think that's a secondary question, at this point.
I think that,
All right.
the big picture is COMIDA, is the staff. This needs to be viable, not just
Sure.
now, but going forward. And
Right.
without that, the projects may not happen down the road. So, it's worth taking.
I just gotta put it, real simple. COMIDA doesn't need to go broke.
Right.
Right, we don't wanna
That's right.
beat ourselves out.
That's, and in your household, if you spend more than you take in,
Yeah, that's right, it's basic.
that's just, you should have a little bit extra every month.
Okay.
So, I do this pretty regularly now. It's a presentation, what does Monroe County do? Who pays for it, why should you care? Now it's morphed itself into where we were, where we are, where we're going. And there's one concept that people need to understand about budgets. They have to be adequate, sustainable,
Right.
and equitable. Those are the three things. So as you explore your mission, is your budget adequate? Is it sustainable? And then is it equitable, which is the most controversial part of all budgets. So I would suggest, as you said, you might want to spend a lot of time thinking about the what ifs in the context of, we're gonna go through the same thing in the county ledge. We don't know where our revenue is gonna be coming from over the next 6 months to a year. We just don't know. We think we do. So we have to make sure we plan very carefully. All organizations are gonna have to do that now. And, the good news is the state's pretty flush with money, as you probably discovered in Albany.
I haven't seen that book on
Well, whether that is sustainable is the question of the day. So it's three things: adequate, sustainable, equitable.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Howard.
Just my 2 cents.
It's worth a lot more than that. We appreciate it. Any other questions or comments? No? Okay. So no action required. So we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is to review the fee schedule. Staff is not recommending any changes at this point, and so there's no dialogue that's needed here. We just need to call the motion. Okay. So is there a motion to recommend that the full board readopt the fee schedule?
I'll make the motion.
Moved by Lisa, seconded by Rhett. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Norm, Miguel. Oh, you guys aren't on the split. Oh, okay, all right. I apologize. Motion carries. You can say aye even if you want to. All right, so review the policies and procedures. Staff is not recommending any changes for this either, so is there a motion to recommend that the full board readopt the investment and deposit policy as presented?
So moved.
Moved by Rhett, seconded by Lisa. All in favor? Aye. Okay, motion carries. Any other business? There being none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Seconded.
All right,
Did you
moved by
approve
Rhett.
the charter?
Did we skip over the charter?
I did 3, 4, 5, and 6.
Number 5.
Finance committee charter, staff is not
Yeah,
recommending
it's
changes. Motion
same
to
thing
recommend the full board readopt the finance.
Perfect,
Okay.
okay,
Yeah,
got
I
it.
did that.
Oh.
I think I did it. I'll do it again.
Okay.
Is there a motion to recommend that the full board readopt the finance committee charter as presented?
So moved.
I don't think you can do that one, no. But moved by Rhett and seconded by Lisa. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So, okay. Ayes have it. Motion passes. There being no other business, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved by Rhett, seconded by Lisa. All in favor?
Aye.
Lisa? Aye.
I'm sorry,
One for me too. Ayes have it. Finance committee meeting
I
is
thought
adjourned.
I'd enough.